So many people today to thank for what we have around us, the magnificence of this wonderful facility, and one of the groups that has been particularly helpful through the renovations, the restorations, and really today helping to underwrite the event that we're all going to enjoy is the Friends of the Furness Railroad District. And William Holloway is on their board, and he is here today to give us a brief overview of the events of the man's life, the architect who designed this, and some of the history of the station. So if I could have you come up here, Bill. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. It's an honor today to represent Bernardon, Haber, Holloway Architects, the architect of record for Amtrak's Wilmington Station restoration and renovation, and also as a board member of the Friends of the Furness Railroad District, a nonprofit group of dedicated individuals committed to preserving and sharing the Wilmington works of renowned train station architect Frank Furness. Frank Furness was a prominent Philadelphia architect and Civil War cavalry hero who designed some of America's greatest railroad stations. Having won the Congressional Medal of Honor for his wartime valor, Furness had the ability to embody some of the energy and power that he experienced on the battlefield in his architectural works, which included such notable buildings as the Philadelphia Academy of Fine Arts, the University of Pennsylvania Library, and the Girard Trust Building. In 1905, Frank Furness's firm, Furness, Evans & Company, was retained by the Pennsylvania Railroad to design a new train station in Wilmington as part of the railroad's much larger plan for elevating its tracks through the city in an effort to separate the train traffic from the street level right-of-way. Because of the newly elevated tracks, Furness's design for the Wilmington station was an acrobatic feat of engineering, with the tracks being carried directly over the original ticketing, baggage, and freight service areas on a mighty grid of exposed riveted beams, which we see downstairs. On January 28, 1907, the station's first passengers proceeded up the grand staircase, which today still features Furness's intricate cast iron details and bright polished brass finials. Once at the track level, those first passengers experienced the bright and majestic men's and women's waiting halls where we stand today. The every evening newspaper called the new station a marvel of neatness and beauty. The Pennsylvania Railroad's Wilmington Station was Furness's last great station design, and ironically, it is the only one of his large urban stations that is still standing today. Over the ensuing decades, the Wilmington Station endured a litany of changes, resulting in the unfortunate loss of its unique glass porch canopies and all of the glass in the long flanking platform windscreens, no doubt for ease of maintenance. In 1976, the station was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. But it was not until 1984 that the station underwent its first significant restoration and renovation as part of Amtrak's comprehensive Northeast Corridor Improvement Project. Completed in 1986, that renovation reconstructed Furness's glass canopies and platform windscreens and cleared out the area below the tracks to create a new consolidated passenger concourse and service area. The varnished oak doorways that we see today at Martin Luther King Boulevard and French Street were also added at that time. In 1999 and 2000, a significant central platform replacement, new signage, passenger information systems were completed to accommodate Amtrak's new high-speed cell service. Despite the work completed in the 1980s, the station again deteriorated over the course of the next 20 years because of outdated restoration techniques, and most importantly, the wear and tear from thousands of daily travelers on the busy Northeast Rail Corridor. Additionally, water leakage from the unusual overhead track beds and platform structures, which form the roof of much of today's concourse level, had damaged the original structure and the 1986 interior improvements. Functionally, the 1986 layout of the station's concourse level did not accommodate Amtrak's technological and staffing advancements, nor the universal accessibility requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. In 2005, Amtrak commissioned Bernardon, Haber, Holloway Architects, assisted by Friends and Friends Restoration Architects, to design a new comprehensive restoration and renovation of the Wilmington Station. Today, we celebrate the completion of that effort. The restoration and renovation of this local landmark anchors the largest cluster of furnace-designed railroad buildings still standing anywhere in the world. A unique part of Wilmington that includes the 1905 Pennsylvania Railroad office building right next door, and the old 1887 B&O station a block away, painstakingly restored by ING Direct. Collectively, these buildings form Wilmington's Furnace Railroad District. Please join us downstairs immediately after these ceremonies for the ribbon cutting of a permanent exhibit highlighting Wilmington's railroad heritage, one of the many activities sponsored by the Friends of the Furnace Railroad District. Thank you.
Our thanks to Mr. Holloway of the Bernardon Haber Holloway Architects firm, who, as you know, helped the design work of this station. And now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce the Governor of the great state of Delaware, Governor Jack McHugh.
It is wonderful to be here on for such a great event. I have to say it's a good thing that this room is well ventilated, because a number of us just came from playing volleyball this morning, and if the others were like me, we didn't have a chance to shower. So, it was a great effort. Our Attorney General, Bo Biden, was there, did a fantastic job, led us to victory. Congressman John Carney. Congressman Carney is also with us, as he was earlier. We've got a few other elected officials who are here as well. I don't see him, but County Executive Paul Clark, he's way back there. State Representative Stephanie Bolton. City Council President Norm Griffiths. City Councilwoman Hanifa Shabazz, and the Mayor of Delaware City, John Martin. And just for the record, Senator Carper was also out there playing and doing a great job. This is a great day because first of all, it reflects the culmination of so much effort over so many years, especially by our congressional delegation. Led by somebody who was part of our congressional delegation, the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Certainly understands the value of rail and the value of Amtrak and the value of the people who run these railroads and who build these cars and who refurbish them. He understands that as well as anybody. And he was joined over so many years by Senator Carper and by Congressman Castle. And we are so fortunate to have had and to continue to have a congressional delegation now joined by Senator Coons and Congressman Carney, people who understand with every fiber of their being the value of Amtrak, the value of rail, and what it means to our state and to our country. So let's hear it from you. And to have this opportunity to dedicate this wonderful renovation, and to do so at the same time that it's named in honor of our Vice President. You know, we all know the public Vice President Biden, but I have to say, for me, the greatest thrill is to see him when the cameras are not rolling, when he's meeting with a handful of governors, when he's meeting, for that matter, with a handful of his constituents, or perhaps most importantly, to see him with his 3 incredible kids. And I think I saw Ashley back there. Was Ashley over there too? Is Ashley there? Is Jill there too? Dr. Biden? Yes. The whole family, okay. We, to see him as a dad, with Hunter, with Bo, with Ashley, to see him as a husband with Dr. Biden, and to see what a role model he is for the rest of us who are in public life and who are trying to balance what it means to be a public servant with being a father. That enough would be reason to name this building after him. And when you consider his service over so many years to the people of the state, his advocacy across the country for rail and for Amtrak specifically, and for just being such an amazing public servant to the people of Delaware and now to the entire country. So for me, the honor of being here to thank our congressional delegation, past and present, for the wonderful work that they have done, and to combine that with honoring Vice President Biden. It really, as a Delawarean, it doesn't get any better than that. So I'm delighted to be here and to now turn it over to our senior senator, Tom Carper, who rides these rails all the time and is such a forceful advocate and fighter on behalf of the people of Amtrak and all the folks who use the train. So thanks very much, Senator Carper.
Thanks very, very much. It's great to be here at the train station on a Saturday, and I get to stay in Delaware. It doesn't always work out that way. How many of you knew Frank Furness? How many of you actually knew him? Joe Biden and I actually knew Frank Furness. We'd stop by and visit him and say, "We need a station. Would you draw one for us?" And finally, after a pestering for a while, he came up with this place. And it's hard to imagine how many people have come through these doors and ridden these rails over the past. He started riding trains through Wilmington a long time ago, and one of the reasons why was we didn't have roads. We didn't have highways, we didn't have I-95 or 495 or any of that. We had some boats. In fact, we were famous as a boat-building state, shipbuilding state down here in the riverfront. But what we had for a long time in Delaware is trains, and a good train service. There's over 500 train stations in the United States of America today, over 500. I dare say the loveliest, one of the most used train station, the most beloved train station is this train station. Oh, go ahead. Ann Canby's here somewhere. Ann was our Secretary of Transportation when John and I were serving in other roles. And Jack was, I think, our state treasurer, just starting as our state treasurer then. Chris hadn't started running Newcastle County. Michael was our congressman. Jim was about to become our mayor. But we had a fair amount of money in the state. It was a good time to be governor. And John was our Secretary of Finance. When we got a AAA credit rating, very proud of that. Ann Canby was our Secretary of Transportation. She said to John one day, she said, "Why don't we take some of the state's extra money and start setting it aside for the day that someday we can take this train station and really make it shine?" And John was in a good mood that day. He said, "Okay." So we started setting some money aside. And so then Senator Joe Biden and Michael, our congressman, and I started working our colleagues. You know, there's horrible earmarks. There's horrible earmarks. We don't build bridges to nowhere here in Delaware with our earmarks. We rebuild beautiful train stations that look like those. I used to serve on the Amtrack board. So I was Governor Tom Carper serving on the Amtrack board. There's another guy named Tom Carper who serves on the Amtrack board. And he's a former mayor of a town in Illinois. He's now the chairman of the Amtrack board. Do you think that didn't cause some confusion? But when I want to get things done on Amtrak, I call and I say, "This is Tom Carper calling." They think it's the chairman of the board. It's just a senator from Delaware. But I don't think this train station's renovation would have taken wing as it has. You know, we set some money aside in the state when we had it and worked hard for those earmarks and put aside about $10 million during the course of 5 or 6 years. The thing that really made this happen, was in the stimulus package, there was a lot of money for high-speed rail. A lot of money for high-speed rail. Now I want to tell you, Barack Obama, our president, he's an advocate for passenger rail and for high-speed rail. But the guy who was there whispering in his ear, twisting his arm, and making sure that it happened is our Vice President, Joe Biden. Vice President, whether you know Frank Furness or not, You know why it's important for us to have passenger rail in this country, and I'll close with this. There's a reason why other countries provide enormous public support for the rail service. They want to reduce their reliance on foreign oil. So do we. They want to make sure that they have less congestion on their roads, highways, and bridges. So do we. They want to make sure that their air is cleaner, and that people, young kids don't have to worry about breathing dirty air, and they want to make sure their air is clean, and think about it. So do we. And we want to make sure that our infrastructure is robust and complete, and we want to do that too. And this is a beautiful place. And as we've taken the riverfront and transformed it from really an industrial wasteland 10, 15 years ago, and we turned this into something that is so beautiful, we now have a train station that is once again worthy of this beautiful riverfront. For everybody that's played a part of this, from our governor and our congressional delegation, from Michael, the good work that he's done as our congressman over the years, the mayor for his terrific support, for John Carney, for letting Ann Canby start putting money aside to help pay for this train station, for everybody, all our friends and family at Amtrak. Thank you so much. And for these young boys and girls who are willing to give up a Saturday morning just to be here with us and to sing for us, we thank you and welcome you as well. God bless you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the joys of being a senior senator is not only that I know Frank Furness, but I also know Chris Coons, and I know that he's a great addition to our delegation. When he was coming to the delegation, somebody in Washington, one of my Republican colleagues said, "Tell me about Chris Coons." I said, "He will raise the IQ of the United States Senate by 10 or 20 points." He said, "No kidding." And he said, "How about your delegation?" I said, "He'll double that." And he wrote Chris Coons, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Senator Carper. We had our last delegation meeting on the train riding back up from Washington just on Thursday. One of the great things about today is that it's a celebration of family and a man who never forgot where he was from. I too am looking forward to hearing your beautiful voices, and I know you're probably tired of hearing ours, so I will be brief. It is a gorgeous day, and I'm thrilled to have a moment to join with you in recognizing and celebrating all the folks who made today possible. As a new member of the congressional delegation for Delaware, it is a great thing to see team play. Those folks who just survived won a volleyball tournament at the University of Delaware, I suspect know a little bit about team play. And one of the things that is striking in Washington is that we have today, and have had for years, a congressional delegation that deeply understands team play, that spots and spikes, that serves, and that plays together well. It is really only through the leadership of then Senator Biden, Senator Carper, and Congressman Castle that today is possible. And for me, one of the most enjoyable things about serving is not even needing to talk with Senator Carper, but to know that he's already in the field to press Secretary LaHood, to take our case to Mr. Boardman, to make advocacy for Delaware and for Amtrak, for rail and for this station, and for the future of rail in Delaware. Congressman Carney, Senator Carper are leading the way, and all I need to do is follow their lead. It is great team play. Every morning I get up and come to this station and get on a train and go to Washington. And in just a few short months, I have come to understand and appreciate in a small way what Vice President Biden knows in his bones more than anyone else, I think, in this country. That commuting each and every day, for 36 years was about family. It was about the family of men and women in organized labor. It was about the family of the men and women who service and build these trains, the men and women who are on the trains, and the men and women who keep us safe each and every day. And I want us to pay a special tribute to the men and women of organized labor and the men and women of as a brand new senator, I've got a lot of homework to do every night. I'm sitting there with a stack of reading, and one of the things I'm learning is that the men and women on these trains, they miss Joe Biden. He was charming and engaging, funny and positive, and every now and then, actually Greg, the conductor, just told me a long, good story on Thursday about how amazing Joe Biden was day in and day out. I'll just say I know I come up very far short of that standard. Joe, they deeply miss you, and every chance they get to see you again and to be reminded of your incredible presence for 36 years, they are encouraged and heartened. This is also made possible by a team effort, not just the architects and the engineers, the men and women of organized labor, but ING Bank. We ought to take a moment and recognize Arkady Coleman and the men and women of ING who beautifully restored this building and the building over there at great expense and with beautiful accuracy. As the President said in his State of the Union, if we're going to win the future, if we're going to outbuild, if we're going to outcompete, if we're going to out-innovate, we have to have an infrastructure in this country that moves people, commerce, goods, and ideas faster than our competitors, and that means rail. There is a man in this room who came to this station every day for 36 years, and he left for Washington. This was the gateway for his service and his dreams. He understood the value of rail. He understood the value of organized labor, and he understood the value of leaving here for just a short time to fight for here. And then every night, this was the gateway through which he came home. To Hunter, to Bo, to Ashley, to Dr. Biden. Folks, this is about family, and about a man who never forgot where he came from. I can think of no more perfect person for whom we could honor with the naming of the station today than our Vice President. Now I'm honored to introduce the Mayor of the City of Wilmington, a man who knows more than any of us about the history of the cities of America, the brightness and brilliance of their past, and their potential for our future. A man with a real vision for revitalizing the City of Wilmington, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Jim Baker.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. I see my kids over here, ready to sing. Thank you for being here. These are a great bunch of kids with great leadership. They sing without books, and they sing in foreign languages, and they know music. They don't have to say words to somebody else's music. They can create music. So I'd like to thank you all. I know you've been standing here a long while. Really, I want to thank Amtrack and our congressional delegation. Every word has been true about how you could work with the group of the congressional delegation on any issue, not just Amtrack. We wouldn't have a post office. We wouldn't have a lot of things if the congressional delegation had not worked together. Really appreciate the governor and his staff. Of course, John Carney is over here. He's always been involved, so it's good for that. The vice president, I used to see him on the train, and he held court. Sort of people would be always getting up to speak to him about this, that, or the other. So I didn't bother him. I just watched him do what he did and go on. I really like to thank the railroad. I got to tell a secret about the railroads. I've been riding railroads since I was a kid because that was our gift for being good students. We got to go to Cleveland, Ohio, and the museums and buy stuff and all like that. So I really appreciate the railroads. But I did, well, I'm divorced now, but I made a mistake in marrying and all like that. But my honeymoon was from Wilmington, Delaware, Philadelphia, to Chicago, to Seattle, Washington on the Empire Builder. And it was a beautiful trip. I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed it at that time, the wedding, the marriage, it was so funny. So I can't say it was bad. But I did that across country. If you ever get a chance, go across country by train. The other is I like to thank the railroad because when I was younger, I used to have a girlfriend in New York, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. And you only charge $14 to Washington and $22 to New York. Perfect. So anyways, I'm telling my bad stories about what it was like. I really appreciate the fact that we appreciate this station. This was the first place I came to in 1966 when I came to Wilmington, Delaware. Got off the train there from New York, and this was the place that I got into. They used to have some kind of heaters or something in the center of this place. But anyways, it's a beautiful place. But the area looked terrible. And look at it today. ING, all the other people that has made this, and certainly Senator Carper when he was governor, and all the other people that have helped us here has made this a beautiful place. So, Joe, thank you very much for all your work for Delaware and for the country, and just the fact that you're a good friend of so many of us and have always been, regardless of whether we agree or disagree on issues. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here, and thank you very much. Now it's my privilege to introduce a great guy. Used to play basketball quite a while ago, and thought he was good, but he really wasn't. But anyways, he was a great congressman and did so much for us. And I loved working with Mike all those years. And we wish you well, Mike, in your future. And we know that you'll be involved, because you already told me that they've got you going every which way now that you're retiring. But I'd like to introduce Congressman Casper.
Thank you, Mayor Baker, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I must say, I didn't expect to hear how important Amtrack and the station has been to the mayor's social life. And those derogatory comments about my basketball, I'll challenge them one-on-one whenever my knees are a little bit better. We'll go from there. You know, I am delighted to be here with everybody else. It's nice that people say nice things about us, but it's been a lot of hard work by everybody who's spoken here today and who's been mentioned in terms of doing this. It takes both political parties, it takes people with a will to make decisions. We're going to spend it on this and not on something else, and then go forward from there. But I think almost everybody here understands the importance of rail service to the city of Wilmington. Without this, our whole transportation system would be very much in jeopardy. I remember speaking to Nathan Haber, who's once the Secretary of Transportation in Delaware, about what would happen if Amtrak closed down altogether in terms of our road system. He said it would be catastrophic, that I-95 would be totally backed up around Wilmington, that you would have all kinds of problems. I've spoken to dozens, maybe hundreds of people who live in this area, any place particularly from New York to Washington, but also up to Boston, about how they get around. And inevitably, if they have taken the train, that's what they take. They don't fly anymore. They prefer not to drive. They prefer to take the train. I've spoken to a lot of people who said they've never been in Delaware before. I said, by the way, have you ever taken a train to New York from Washington, whatever? I said, well, you went through Delaware, and if you got off on the platform, you've been in Delaware. This station means a lot to us, as you know, obviously our colleague Coleman could testify to that better than anybody. I mean, right here with ING and a lot of other businesses, I believe the mayor and Governor Carper and others deserve a great deal of credit for the work on the riverfront. This is sort of an extension of it, if you will. There's just been a lot of very positive things that have happened at this end of Wilmington, and I think all of us can take some great delight and pleasure in that. And this fix-up was needed, and it was done, and it was a combination of the state and the federal government working together to get it done, and for that we can all be extremely thankful. It is interesting that we are dedicating the naming of the station to our friend Joe Biden today. For 36 years, he has religiously gotten on the train in the morning, the days we were in session in Washington, D.C., and then he has come back at night. I think, Joe, it is a huge mistake to allow them just to name this for you. I think you should claim ownership of Amtrak. At least some sort of minority ownership, if not majority ownership, for all that time you've spent buying tickets and traveling on Amtrak. But it is a pleasure to watch Joe in action. Sometimes I try to avoid him Because to get on the train, and my idea was I had to read papers and do things or whatever it may be. Joe's idea was he was going to talk to everybody on the train, if he possibly could, and he did. And he would talk to anybody. It didn't have to be important to talk to Joe Biden. It could be anyone from Delaware or someplace else. He had something to comment on about what was happening at the governmental level. Joe would talk to you and talk to you about it. He's always been affable, and for that reason, obviously, he's been extremely politically popular. It's just absolutely right that the station would be named for Joe. And for all he's done for Delaware and for the United States of America. So we honor you, Joe, today with the naming of this. And we thank all of you for your interest in our trains and in our train station. It makes a huge difference. I've actually announced for political office in this particular room. I probably should have done that this year in the way it worked out. I didn't get around to the state. Every now and then things work. But we thank you for your continuing and abiding interest in this. It makes a huge difference, and hopefully everybody will get a chance to use this for a long time to come. So let me, with that, turn to the introduction of a different group. And you've seen these beautiful young people. I'm going to have to read this. I will introduce you to a performance by the Wilmington Children's Chorus, which provides a diverse, nurturing, and tuition-free arts education program for 120 youth from inner-city Wilmington and surrounding areas. The Wilmington Children's Chorus is a project of CityFest, Inc. and is supported by the Delaware Division of the Arts Cultural Affairs Director, Tina Betts. Tina should wave. Tina by herself. And our distinguished Mayor, Jim Baker. In fact, it's the mayor who created the Children's Chorus 9 years ago to provide young people with the opportunity to explore their talents, abilities, and personal development. Knowing Tina and knowing the mayor, it says in these notes that the mayor did it, but I imagine Tina was pushing behind that if I had to guess. The chorus has shared its music with tens of thousands of audience members throughout the Mid-Atlantic region over the past 9 years and will do so again today, right now. In the spirit of today's celebration, members of the chorus will now perform the traditional African-American spiritual, the Gospel Train, conducted by the artistic director, Kimberly Doucette, and accompanied on the piano by the founding artistic director of the chorus, David Christopher. So welcome our young people.
Gospel trains are coming, I hear it just like wonderful job. I'm Joe Boardman. I was supposed to greet you early on and didn't quite make it here with a little power problem this morning. Mr. Vice President, thank you for being here this morning, you and your family. And if the Biden family, as I'm making a few comments, can work their way up here, I would appreciate that. Make sure you take Hunter along with you by the hand, please. Senators, Congressmen, Governor, Mayor, there are no secrets on the railroad. We knew all about those things you were doing. I see a lot of senior, junior, and other Amtrak folks here. It's a happy day to be here. Some even retired vets I see you showed up here to make sure that this was a special day here in Wilmington. Federal Railroad Administrator Joe Zabu is with us today. Joe's a board member, but two of our other board members, Jeff Moreland and Wilmington's own Bertie Clemente. So I welcome you to the Joseph R. Biden Jr. Wilmington Amtrak Station. Look around the room, I also see our labor leaders, Michael and others that are here. Thank you for coming today. This is a great day for Amtrak. Over 1 million people every year here at Joseph R. Biden, Wilmington. I'm going to mess that up before I'm done, Mr. Vice President, but come to this station. $37.5 million to repair and rebuild and revitalize this, and you've heard all about that already. You've heard all about how important Wilmington is to us and how important this family is to us, that they support Amtrak and what we're trying to get done across this nation, really. But it includes the critical piece of connection to the United States, and that's the Northeast Corridor. And yes, to get to Washington and New York, you come through Wilmington. Woo! And Delaware. I think it's time for me to turn over, almost time for me to turn over. We're going to pull this off. Where's my other Joe? There's so many Joes at Amtrak. Joe Boardman, Joe McHugh. My wife's name is Joe. My son's name is Joe. My friend's name is Joe. And his son, who's my friend, is Hunter. So we're going to pull this first. Okay. Can we do the whole Biden family pull? The whole Biden family. Go ahead. This is a facsimile that will cast.
You know, folks, the one thing in the years I had the privilege of representing Delaware in the Senate, I would most like to avoid would be to be here on Saturday. So I thank all my colleagues. This is what we call a tradesman holiday. You know, we come visit the trains after riding them all week. and I appreciate you guys being here. Joe, the fact of the matter is that this station could be appropriately named for any one of the men sitting here, and I want to thank them. I'm sure they probably had something to do with this happening, so thank you guys. It's a great honor. And by the way, before I go, you kids are great. Vice President's house and sing. Would you do that? Events we do, important events, and we always invite entertainment. And we would be very proud if you guys would come down and sing for us, maybe this spring or this summer. Okay? Can we work it out? City needs great monuments, particularly monuments that continue to serve the people of that city. You know, all of us, and I don't know anybody who's put in more time and effort to work over the same number of years as I did, and sometimes more than Mike Castle and Tom Carper, as governor, as congresspersons, as senators, and they know what I came to know. What my dad used to talk about Wilmington. Wilmington used to be a railroad city. Just ask Bertie Clementi's dad, who was a railroad man. God love him. The fact of the matter is that rail has always been critically important to this city. And it is not an exaggeration what Mike suggested, or maybe it was Tom, what would happen if you didn't have rail. You'd have to build 7 more lanes on I-95 in order to accommodate the traffic. More people ride Amtrak on the East Coast in any one day than all of the, on the Northeast Corridor, and all of those people get on and off a plane in a 24-hour period in every single airport from Maine to Florida. This is the 11th busiest station in the whole deal. And this is so critical, such a critical artery to the commerce and intercourse of this great country, and, quite frankly, this city. The truth is, I don't deserve this unless you're awarding this for longevity. And you know, what I really want to say, and I'll be brief today, this is a sentimental ride for Jill and me and for our family. Every one of these kids behind you, including my grandchildren and my nieces and nephews, Amtrak has literally been an integral part of their lives. They have everything that's occurred and that's important to me since I was an elected official, either began or ended right here at this station. And I mean that sincerely. From the day that I announced for the United States Senate, and after getting elected, got on my first trip to Washington on Amtrak. I had friends and family, and they worked for Amtrak. The people, everyone from the shoe shine guys straight through. You walk in as Mike and Tom can tell you, and they'd be like, hey Joe, or hey Mike, what the hell did you do today? What's going on? You answer. How long we been hanging out, old buddy? 35 years or more? 35 years or more. I've come to know the Amtrak family here like family. Those conductors and engineers that were based from New York to Washington. Every year, Jill and I had a Christmas party and/or got so big a summer picnic at our home, where literally it got to hundreds would come, all the retirees. I've been to their baptisms, their weddings, their funerals. I know their children and their grandchildren. They know mine. They've looked out for mine. They've looked out for me. They've looked out for me. And literally, everything good or bad that's happened in my career, the first people I would encounter are the people I get in the train, and the people who work for Amtrak who would embrace me. When I was down, when things were not going well at all, or there were losses in my family, they were the first ones there for me. I mean this literally. Not just making sure I got on the train and got the ticket, but embracing me, sitting down talking to me. Conductor's getting you a cup of coffee and sit down and say, Joe, it's going to be okay. Or this celebratory time. We chose when my abortive campaign for president, we started it right here. I started every of my abortive campaigns right here. But I also had the overwhelming privilege of, and I thought it was so, Jill and I thought it was so, I don't know how to explain it, special. That Barack and I talked about how he would get from Chicago to the Capitol on 2 days before our inauguration, or the day before. We agreed and he thought it would be a great idea. He's a great, great admirer of Lincoln. And we talked about him coming to Philly, coming by and picking me up on this station. Thousands of you were out here that bitterly cold day. So literally every important thing in my life from age 29 has been shared first and last by the people who work on Amtrak and some of the regular commuters. And so it really is, says more of a sentimental journey. But it's one other thing, and I'll end. You know, today, and again, even the things, and I'm sure it's the same with Tom and Mike, I single them out because they've ridden the most. I know that Senator Coons has started to ride. But you know, I can remember Ash and I, my daughter Ashley and I were reminiscing. I don't know which of my birthdays it was, but it was when my daughter Ashley was 9 years old. And the Senate was going to be in late. And she had made a birthday cake for me. And she was so disappointed I wasn't going to be able to be there for the birthday cake. So I went up to then the majority leader and I said, look, you don't have to have these votes stacked at this time. Stack the votes so it's not till 9 o'clock. We're going to be in very, very late. We're into 1 or 2 that morning. This was a 3-hour opening. I got on the train in Washington and I headed up here on an Amtrak train. Actually, it was a Metro at the time. And I got off. Jill was standing on the platform with the help of the conductors and the station master. Ashley was there with the cake. Pleased as could be, she's going to give her daddy the cake. We lighted the cake. I blew out, sang happy birthday, blew out the candles. I walked across the platform, and a good old friend of mine, Chris Christiani, held the train for about 2 minutes. Got on the train and headed south. So I'm not exaggerating. I'm saying, look, this railroad is about family. The labor guys you talk about, their fathers and mothers, many of them worked in Amtrak. They worked in the shops. They did their best, and they're the best there is. It's also about connecting families. You know, an awful lot of families, as expensive as all transportation has gotten, an awful lot of families will not be able, I don't know how many times we got on that Vermonter coming north, guys, and how many folks did you see coming out of North Carolina and Georgia trying to trek up to see their kids who lived in New York? Our whole family's getting on those, what we used to call milk runs, stopping at every stop. This is about connected families. You know, and there's 20,000 Amtrak employees who work and connect these families every day. And the thing that I love about them, and I'll end with this, is that with notable exceptions, and we're not perfect, we're not like I'm Amtrak. Amtrak is not perfect, but the truth of the matter is, I watch the conductors. I watch the conductors who become some of my closest friends in life. I watch how they treat the passengers. I watch how they treat that woman, elderly woman who got on the wrong train and was going north instead of south and panicked, not knowing what to do. I've watched them get on, watching a young kid trying to put a bag up on top of the baggage compartment, and they're not supposed to be lifting those bags, these guys. I've watched them how they see that look of wonder on a kid's face, and they spend time, and when the train gets to the end, they walk them up to Mike Weaver up front, the conductor, and show them. It's just it is really, I'm really proud of it. And I'm proud that everyone standing behind me has logged about 1 million miles, my whole family, on Amtrak. I'll end with what is somewhat a discouraging note when you think about it. When I left the Senate, one of the newspapers wanted to estimate how many trips I made on Amtrak. And they went back and got the records, Mike, based on how many days the Senate was in session over the years I was there, etc. And they estimated that I made over 7,820 round trips on Amtrak. 7,820. Now, whether it's 7,000 or 7,800, it's clearly over 7,000. And the guys in the conductors, you know, it's based on seniority. You start off number 1 in seniority and going all the way through. Gave me at one point a key. The key that opens the doors when they're stuck as a memento, and pointed out at that moment that was 2 years before I left, that I was number 4 in seniority. They estimated that I had spent over, I think it was 4 years and 8 months. You take 24 hours a day, provide 7,900 round trips, and the average, as Mike can tell you in the beginning, and Tom can tell you, some of these, when the track was being redone, were 3 and 4 hour trips one way on occasion. And so they figured, and they went down and they calculated how many hours how many days, years, months I sat in the train. And I can tell you, they were among the most rewarding times of my life. The people I met, ease with which you go, people who come and pour out their hearts to you, people who give you great ideas. And again, how I got to be such close friends, my whole family. I'll bet there are 10 conductors who still send birthday cards for Bo, Hunt, and Ashley because they watched them grow up. And so, folks, this is a good outfit. This is a good outfit. And I am very, very proud to have my name associated with this station. As I said, I've not done any more than these men have to see this come to fruition. Arguably, they've done more both as governors and as senators and congressmen. But if it's based on longevity, this is kind of like the charcoal pit. I think I've been in charcoal more than anybody since it's been over. So I think that's the only basis upon which I deserve this great honor, and it is an honor. And I'll be proud when my grandchildren and their children come by and see this little plaque. No one will remember it, but they'll know, the family will know, and they'll see that was my grandpa or that was my great-grandpa. It's a great honor, and I can't thank you all enough.